This dais is very difficult for the tall person. General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Defence Staff, Admiral D.K. Tripathi, Chief of Naval Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, Chief of Army Staff, and newly appointed Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, Chief of Air Staff, Admiral Karmir Singh Ji, ex-Navy Chief and the Chairman, ENF, Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, Director General, ENF, distinguished foreign guests and delegates, senior officials of Indian Armed Forces and Ministry, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to address you all today at this esteemed gathering of the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue 2024. I understand that this dialogue is being attended by a wide array of top serving and retired officers of navies, think tanks, and academia of more than 20 friendly countries, and I welcome you all to India. Ladies and gentlemen, a widely representative forum like this presents an opportunity not only to share our common commitment towards peaceful and a prosperous world, but also understand and appreciate each other's views on important strands of contemporary international issues. Equally importantly, they also provide an opportunity to deliberate and thresh out differences and expand the common ground of consensus among nations. Exploring the dynamics of resource, geopolitics, and security in the vast expanse of the Indo-Pacific, which is the overarching theme of this dialogue, cannot be better timed. I congratulate the organizers and the stakeholders to adopt this crucial theme for the seminar. Friends, we know that the Indo-Pacific construct has gained increasing global significance and concomitant attention over past some times, and there are good reasons for this. The region has always been economically dynamic and bustling with trade, commercial, and cultural activities spanning millennia. India, along with other littoral countries in the region, has played a historical role in this evolution. Before I proceed further, I would like to give a brief historical representative of India's role in the region, which will help in a better appreciation of the larger scenario and why it is in vital interest of India to be in the forefront of such endeavors of cooperation. Friends, India has been a seafaring country since the beginning of the Common Era. In the initial century of the Common Era, India's maritime influence, mainly trade and commercial, spanned across the Arabian Sea, east coast of Africa, Red Sea up to the far-off Roman Empire. Indian exports flooded the West, while gold from Rome flowed into India. In later centuries, with disturbances on the Western trade front, Indian trading activities increasingly focused on the eastern flank, especially the eastern coast of Bay of Bengal. Later, with the emergence of influential Cholas in the peninsular India, the engagement with the countries of the Southeast Asia gained momentum tremendously. Apart from trade, India has also immensely contributed to the regional social evolution in the fields such as religion, culture, language, architecture, and many other art forms. The religious influences of various strands emanating from India slowly but steadily spread throughout the region. These cultural influences and similarities of traditions can still be felt. To give a few examples, Garud Alliance in Indonesia derives the name from the Mount Vahan of Lord Vishnu in the ancient Hindu traditions. Similarly, we have common roots for many words or even languages. There are innumerable such examples where India has contributed significantly in other fields apart from trade, commerce, and economy. Friends, comes much closer, the thriving economies and resources in the Indo-Pacific propelled trade and commerce by the Western colonial powers, followed by the colonial subjugation of a large part of the region. Friends, I have given this brief sketch of your history only to highlight the economic dynamism of this region since ancient times. In all this, India's age-old relationship and tradition of fostering maritime cooperation with the countries in the region has also evolved from ancient trade and cultural ties to modern strategic partnership aimed at ensuring security in the Indian Ocean region. Today, as is well known, a majority of the world's population and a significant proportion of global economic output makes this region a global economic hub. Friends, the global maritime landscape is rapidly evolving today, shaped by shifting power dynamism, resource competition, and emerging security threats. The emergence of the Indo-Pacific theater today reflects a visible balancing of the global power, political, economic, and to some degree, even a military power between the West and the East. Friends, this East-West balancing has created opportunities for the economic development. The Indo-Pacific is experiencing an unprecedented economic buzz today. But as they say, opportunities come with challenges. It is no secret that the Indo-Pacific region confronts numerous traditional and non-traditional security threats, which have economic interest in the core. The Indo-Pacific region has emerged as the world's most dynamic geopolitical zone and is the center of gravity of the world's economic and strategic interests. It also carries a degree of pre-existing international tensions, rivalry, and conflict. While some challenges are of local nature, many challenges have global ramifications. Friends, especially with respect to the marine resources, we are witnessing a significant increase in geopolitical competition. The oceans are not only the lifeblood of our economies, they have also become the battlegrounds for resource extraction, access to trade routes, and strategic dominance. As populations continue to grow, the demand for maritime resources such as minerals, including rare earths, energy, and seafood has surged, leading to heightened tensions and the competition among the nations. Friends, this dialogue will be deliberating upon the marine resources component of the Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, exploring the intricate linkages between resource, geopolitics, and maritime security. The maritime geography of the region creates an airtel form of shipping which concentrates around critical choke points that increases the possibility of disruption. Ongoing events on the Red Sea is an example in case. Friends, it is in this context that I would like to briefly touch upon the subject of the global commons, which are essential for maintaining a sustainable planet by creating a balance of competing interests, offering numerous ecological, economic, and social benefits that transcend our national boundaries. These global commons, like the ocean, outer space, climate, clean air, etc., are shared by all of humanity and are not controlled by any single nation. Friends, global commons in the maritime sphere today cover not only abundant fisheries that sustain livelihood to millions and contribute significantly to global food security, but also critical undersea minerals such as lithium, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth elements that are embedded in the oceans. These resources were not quite as much sought after only few years ago. Today, they hold clue to a better and brighter future. Friends, now when I am talking about global commons, it becomes imperative to also highlight the tragedy of the commons, a concept which extends back to the classical antiquity. As you know, this refers to a scenario where individuals acting in their own self-interest deplete shared resources, leading to collective ruin. In geopolitics, this concept manifests when nations exploit global commons such as oceans, air space, or even outer space in complete disregard to the long-term harmful consequences of their selfish action. We have a burning example of climate change and the global warming today. In the context of marine resources, treasury of the commons is a looming threat. If the international community does not come together and act swiftly for sustainable management of these shared global commons, evidence of this tragedy, including environmental degradation over extraction of certain resources and increasing geopolitical tensions, is already visible. Friends, we are witnessing localized incidents of conflict and a wider undercurrent of international tensions in recent years. As the world transforms from an industrial world to a technological world, from a fossil fuel-based economy to the renewables, this threat is only going to increase unless we take preemptive steps to control possible damage. Friends, I am particularly concerned with the attempts in certain pockets to monopolize and weaponize critical resources like rare minerals, internet, data, even intermediary goods such as solar cells. While a scramble for resources for economic reasons has had a long history, their weaponization by some nations for strategic reasons is a comparatively new phenomenon. These tendencies are not conducive for the global good. Friends, with the purpose of creating a more accommodative approach toward the common goods and negate possible tragedy, I mentioned India's vision for the Indo-Pacific anchored in the principles of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, given by our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi. We believe in fostering partnership that prioritize sustainable development, economic growth, and mutual security. Our engagement with the regional partners is guided by the understanding that true progress can only be achieved through collective action and by bringing synergies. With our consistent efforts, India is now considered by many as a credible, reformed security partner and first responder for nations in the region. India's unwavering commitment to a rules-based international order, respect for international law, the adherence to the principles enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the sea, UNCLOS, are cornerstones of our foreign policy. India has consistently advocated for a peaceful resolution to disputes and has sought to promote cooperation among the nations in the Indo-Pacific with a strong emphasis on the centrality of the ASEAN in fostering regional dialogue, stability, and the collective growth. Friends, India is also committed to ensuring the safety and security of the vital international maritime routes. Our engagement with the regional partners, including joint exercises and information sharing initiatives, is aimed at strengthening our collective maritime security framework. Our armed forces, especially India Navy, has been at the forefront of the cooperative endeavors with countries of the region. We are continuously working towards improving interoperability with friendly foreign navies and building capacity and capabilities of many other countries in this region. Friends, while our endeavor for maritime cooperation continues, I want to emphasize that our interests are not in conflict with any other country. At the same time, interests of any other nation should not come in conflict with other nation. This is the spirit in which we must work together. One of the key aspects facilitating this cooperation should be focused on sharing the best practices and the lessons learned. The challenges we face today are not insurmountable, and the world has historically seen many challenges in the past and overcome them. There is no reason to believe otherwise. Through forums like the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, we have the incredible opportunity to explore innovative solutions that can enhance our collective response to resource geopolitics and security in the Indo-Pacific. Friends, I sincerely hope that the participants present here will actively deliberate upon the important issues facing the region and beyond. Your discussions today and in the days to come are crucial for shaping the future of resource geopolitics and security in the Indo-Pacific. By working together, we can identify pathways and the ways forward that prioritize cooperation, sustainability, and security. I urge each of you to engage actively and share your insights. The richness of our collective experiences can provide us with innovative solutions that transcend borders and foster regional stability. Let us be bold in our thinking and proactive in our action, ensuring that we not only address the challenges of today, but also build the groundwork for a secure and prosperous future also. I urge you, come up with a blueprint for alternatives, bringing up new ideas, concepts, and principles that are commonly accepted by policymakers in various nations. Give us ideas which contact conflict and expand consensus and agreement. I wish you very best in your endeavor. With this, I would like to conclude my remarks. I extend my gratitude for inviting me here. My special thanks to the Indian Navy and the National Maritime Foundation for facilitating this vital global dialogue. Thank you. Jai Hind.